Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. From Peterson's, I'm your host, Taylor Sienkiewicz, and you're listening to You Have a Cool Job, a podcast highlighting those who took their profession in a unique direction and what they did to get there. Today's podcast is sponsored by Pathway U, the science behind education and careers that fit. Pathway U is the online platform anyone can use for guidance on educational pathways, career options, and job choice decisions. Empower yourself with purpose and connect to a meaningful work life that fits you best. And the first 2,000 Peterson's listeners will receive a free assessment by visiting petersons.pathwayu.com or clicking the link in the post. Now, on with the show. On this week's episode of You Have a Cool Job, we talked to Water for People CEO, Eleanor Allen. The last time I talked to Eleanor, I was working as an intern for the Denver Business Journal, and she had just won the journal's 2016 Outstanding Woman in Business Award in Architecture, Engineering, and Construction. Eleanor had recently left her corporate job at Arcadis to enter the nonprofit world with Water for People. Now that she's had some time to settle into her role, I asked her about this big career change she has undergone.
It's been amazing. It's a wonderful organization. I'm very honored to lead it, and we're growing a lot. So our programs are really strong. We've been growing a lot in moving up from our local level programs to national programs in a lot of our countries. So that's been exciting, and been successful getting our fundraising in and hiring some amazing people and delivering our strategy. So far, so good.
Great. Yeah. Has there been a lot of big changes then, especially if you said you're moving from local to national?
It's more progressive changes. I wouldn't say they're huge changes. It's about being really credible at the work we're doing at the local level so we get noticed by the states and by the national governments in the countries where we work, so our people get a higher profile. And it's been really great to watch because it takes years to build that credibility, and then leveraging it is not a lot of cost, but it's a huge influence. And then we get into positions where we can help develop policies for the whole country and influence how programs are delivered for getting water to millions and millions of people, where we don't actually have to build the infrastructure, but we can help influence those changes. And that's, I think, a much more impactful part of our work because we can affect more people. But we need to continue to build the infrastructure to be credible and to keep learning. So it's a good combination of really high-level work and then just down in the weeds doing the work.
Right, you're traveling a lot, huh?
Yeah, I travel. It's a good amount. It's not too much. I have a really good team, so I usually go travel to visit our programs if there's some special events or meetings and things like that. So it's nice, but I like to go to stay current, but I don't want to go too much because it's just too much travel then. So it's a good mix.
Right, definitely. Well, I know that beforehand you were talking a lot about how you switched from those corporate big water projects in a for-profit world to nonprofit smaller projects that have a bigger impact. So how has that transition been?
It's been good. I mean, that was definitely one of my initial impressions, like, well, this is really different. One, nonprofit is totally different. I didn't really know what I was getting into. And then, of course, the smaller scale projects. But I think part of what I love about the scaling work is I get to work at the high level. But the bigger stuff as well is continuing to do the small community systems. So it's kind of coming to a nice sweet spot for what my background was and the kind of work we're doing.
While much of Eleanor's travel has to do with visiting project sites, several of her trips are for conferences where she speaks on various topics. She explained the role of conferences in her job.
A lot of them are water conferences, so speaking about water for people. And then I go to several that are in the social entrepreneur circuit. Leadership conferences, I went to Women's Leadership, Global Leadership Forum. That was the one in Iceland last year. I guess those are some of the themes. Social entrepreneurship, leadership, and water.
Okay, great. And what are some of those projects that you're working on now, or just some of your favorite ones that you have worked on over the last couple of years now?
Oh, there's so many. I'll tell you about some of our bigger programs. So Rwanda is our biggest country program, but it's also the country where we have done what I explained earlier, really leveraged the district level work to the national level. And in the case of Rwanda, it's the Ministry of Infrastructure. So Rwanda's a country of 12 million people. We have 3 district programs, so we're working directly with 1.2 million. So a good chunk of the country at least directly benefits from our work building water infrastructure. Then we work at the ministry level where we work with all 12 million and help replicate the model that we have across the whole country. So that's where we're developing regulatory frameworks, where we're working with setting the right water rates across the country, where we look at the district investment plan, so helping the Ministry of Infrastructure develop the cost estimates for how much it'll cost to build all the missing infrastructure for the whole country. And then we call them district investment plans. So there's 30 districts in the country. You do a master plan and a cost estimate for each district, and then you roll it all up and you say, to get Rwanda to full coverage for water, aligned with Sustainable Development Goal number 6, it'll cost you this much money. And so that's, it's about $500 million to $1 billion to build all this infrastructure. We're not going to build it all, but the ministry needs those cost estimates in the level of detail that we can provide to be able to get big financing to build the infrastructure. So that's been really an exciting program. We're doing all those different things. And so a couple of the other programs where we're working at the national level as well, in Uganda, Bolivia, and Peru. So each of those have their own similar delivery methods, but they're a unique story. So for example, in Bolivia, we worked at the district level. We got the first district to get the full coverage of the whole country 2 years ago. That was Cuchamuela. And then we got a lot of visibility in the country. So we also started working at the national level, helping develop the rural water and sanitation program called Matagua. So we have someone working at the national level developing that program. And similar to Rwanda, it's about getting the conceptual design, the cost estimates to figure out what it takes to get our own water service. And then we also are doing something unique in Bolivia where we, in between the national program and the district level, we're working with 2 new states where we're providing technical assistance directly to the government to help replicate the program using all government employees and government funding. So we're just a technical advisor, which is also a great way to leverage our knowledge and our skills and our experience, but it doesn't require a lot of funding for water for people.
Got it. So in those countries where you aren't getting money from the country, is that mostly fundraising for water for people?
Well, we always work where we work, we always have co-funding by government. Mm-hmm. So it varies about how much they'll put in. We'll never just come and bring water for people money alone. So we always bring water for people money, and we always require a match from government. That the amount that the co-funding government brings is always negotiated. But our global average is we bring 65% of the funding and government matches 35%. But that's actually quite unique for nonprofits. As I've learned over these past few years, a lot of them don't get matched by government, which makes our model more sustainable because government really buys into our approach and has also skin in the game in the sense of funding.
I asked Eleanor about the fundraising she does for Water for People in terms of private versus government funds, as I was curious if the recent shutdown affected the company. She said funds mostly come from private groups, such as foundations and corporate sponsorships. Some individuals also donate to the cause. But Water for People does receive a few government grants, including a USAID grant. So far, though, the international affairs budget for water and sanitation has remained intact, securing the USAID grant. Aside from funding, the obvious rewarding nature of Eleanor's job is the positive human effects her work has. In describing this aspect of her job, Eleanor focused on 2 projects as examples.
So 2 other programs we're working national level are Uganda and Peru. So I just got back from Peru, and what's exciting about Peru is there is a high level of government investment. There is a national commitment to there's a law actually to get everyone in water service aligned with Sustainable Development Goal number 6 and a policy. And so our work there, we have a very sophisticated water resources management program that we're now leveraging from the district level to the national. So that was one of our meetings when I was there, was working with the national regulator about how can we take what we've done in our districts and work it through the national program for water resources management to ensure that the water supplies remain intact and we don't lose water because of climate change mostly. So conservation and protection of watersheds. And also about the rate setting. So we have a quite intricate model how we determine what people pay for their water service based on the cost of the system of where they live. But people actually do pay, and it is a sustainable revenue source to keep the systems running, which is a huge differentiator. So the national regulator was really interested in that too, to figure out how they could use that across the country. Because a lot of places people, if they pay anything, they pay too low an amount, and then the water service fails, the system breaks down, and they don't have money for repairs. So changing that whole culture is really important for sustainability. So those are 2 things that are new in Peru that are really high level that were exciting to see when I was just there in January. And the rate setting it moving up to the national level in the water resources management. And Uganda, we are really known for our work in sanitation, specifically helping small-scale entrepreneurs create businesses based around sanitation. So in this case, there's no sewers in most of Uganda, urban or rural. So even in the capital city of Kampala, only 7% of the city has sewers. The rest of the city is on septic tanks or pit latrines, and then just expand that out to the other countries. So there's over 30 million people in Uganda. The whole, and this you could say for all of Africa too. It's just not, we call it non-sewer sanitation. So what's been really interesting about our work is helping businesses get started selling toilets that people want and aspire to so that they're nice. Then having the services to get your tank empty or your latrine pit. I mean, it was the same thing that happens if you have a septic tank here in the rural U.S. You got to call someone to empty it. So getting those businesses started. Then developing a little decentralized treatment plants for the sludge to make sure it's not just dumped, which is the typical way you dump it somewhere else. You empty the pit, you dump it, but then it's huge contamination, and it's a human health risk and environmental contamination. So getting the treatment plants built and then taking all that sludge and repurposing it, because there is nutrient value and there's energy value. So either for solid fuel for cooking that looks like charcoal briquettes, so it competes with what we call sludge briquettes instead of charcoal briquettes, because most of Uganda still uses charcoal as firewood. Or for compost, because it's still very agricultural. So that whole sanitation value chain is hugely taken off in the last few years, and we're really doing a lot of work promoting sanitation entrepreneurs, and we're also working on our own business in the city of Kampala, helping develop the sludge briquettes manufacturing process in factories, so we can help service the leaking or the improperly emptied pits in the low-income areas. So our mission is to have sustainable sanitation in the city, and doing it through a way where we can repurpose the sludge, collect it safely, take it to the treatment plant, repurpose it, and reuse it.
While Eleanor is working a lot on the people side of things, especially in terms of government relations, her background is in engineering. As I mentioned before, she used to work at Arcadis as the global director for water, and beforehand worked in various water and sanitation engineering positions. She also has an impressive educational background, with bachelor's degrees in civil engineering and environmental studies, mergers and acquisitions, and a master's in environmental engineering, just to name a few. I asked her how she is able to incorporate this knowledge into her work with the projects.
Yeah, he's definitely going into the detail of this sludge briquette it's there's a technical aspect of that I love, having a background in wastewater treatment. We have a lot more work in water quality, just getting better water quality to the people we serve, so that it brings a lot of my background. And I think a lot of it also is program management, project management, all those skills I learned over the years, which can be transferable to any business. In this case, as our programs get bigger, it's the same skills of just organizing, planning, chartering a team, getting the right team, communicating, managing budgets, all those things hold true for the work we do as well. And I've really seen that come to life over the past few years.
Right. So how do you feel about your decision now that you've had a little bit of perspective from switching from corporate to nonprofit?
Oh, it's been amazing.
Yeah. No
regrets. Absolutely no regrets.
Right.
And now that I understand nonprofit better, I feel like I can leverage more of my skills as well to help to close the gap between nonprofit and for-profit, but also really make Water for People a better organization. And a lot more, we've done a lot of work on efficiency and building a more professional business on the inside, and therefore we can have more impact on the outside. And that's been super rewarding.
While the effects Eleanor and Water for People have on these developing countries as a whole is rewarding, Eleanor is particularly motivated to work with and improve opportunities for women and girls.
I think one of the things that I haven't mentioned that I find really rewarding is the aspect of helping women and girls. It's definitely a part of something that I'm passionate about. In my engineering years and consulting, it was about keeping women in the industry, getting women into engineering in the U.S. and keeping them in the engineering field, which was a challenge and is still a huge challenge. In Water for People, having women employees is they're more in the nonprofit space than in engineering. For me, it's migrated into getting women and leaders and communities into the water sector. For example, women generally know more about water resources where they live and are definitely more interested in getting nicer toilets because they have a greater need for safety and dignity when they go to the bathroom. They care more about the family home and the toilet becomes part of your home. So sanitation, cleanliness, so toilets are important. And then just understanding where the water is and what the water quality is about, they really know a lot. So getting the people who know these things into leadership positions in our communities, either on a water committee or on a water resources planning, maybe in the district water and sanitation office, that is really exciting because what I see then, I can imagine the future of getting women into leadership positions in their communities and into the water sector, and these are jobs that didn't exist before, so getting them early in and then getting more gender parity in the water sector from the bottom up, and then we don't have to worry about not enough women in the sector because we don't even have to talk about it if they're already there. Yeah. That is super inspiring. And then, of course, that plays out for girls, getting girls into school and keeping them in school so they don't have to worry about fetching water or there's no toilet when they get their period in middle school and they have to drop out. And then getting them interested in water through our education programs in the schools, they become ambassadors for the environment and for water sanitation. Maybe they'll want to have careers in water too. So both these things are really inspiring just on the human capital aspect of getting people into water careers, which has been super rewarding for me. So I'd love that to be played out in other countries and not have to, have some of the challenges I face in my career. Maybe they just won't have them. And that's super inspiring.
Eleanor is using her knowledge, background, and expertise to build things that have a hugely positive impact on the world. We hope you can utilize your own skills to create meaningful work too. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.